Hello, friends. I'm host Eric, host of Talking with Famous People, and I'm going to give a quick rundown of human history here. It's come to my attention there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of lies, just flat out lies, a lot of deceit, a lot of misspoken words, but I'm lucky. I actually happen to find the one true religion and the one true history of the universe and of the world. I'm going to share it with you right now. I'm going to give you a quick overview. I'm not obviously going to cover all the details. First, let's talk metaphysics. So it turns out it's a polytheistic universe. We have more than one god. Okay, so here we go. Here are the gods. We've got Entropic the god of temples and confusion. He makes people make mistakes. Well, he not necessarily. He's a drug addict, kind of, but he's cool too. There's Baby Lady Bay, and she's the goddess of interconnection with human beings. There's Curtis, the god of naming, texting of naming of things. There's Akutron, dragon god of quality of objects. There's Precreator, who's Precreator, and more or less the god of music, god of time, the real god of time, the god of immortal time as opposed to mortal time. God of mortal time died, of course. So just to fill you guys in case you haven't heard any of the real history of the universe, there's a gentleman, a very famous gentleman named Campago Religeti, who did happen upon the Villa of the Gods when it stopped in New Hampshire. He got into the villa, he went up to the plateau, he looked over the edge of the plateau, and while he was there, standing next to him was the god of time, and it turned out that one bit of the railing of the Villa of the Gods on the plateau was actually made by mortal hands after the emoticons crashed into the earth, and therefore wasn't entirely perfect, because Akutron didn't make it himself, you see. Of course, Akutron didn't actually make everything himself anyway, but prior to the very beginning, prior to the crashing of the emoticons, well, the gospel says it like this. At the very beginning, before there was anything, there were the world and the people as always, but all they did was work, and everything they did was perfect. And so that's the status that people had back when Akutron had them build the villa per his instructions, of course. So those, all the gods live together, except they're not all of them do, because there's Beholder. Now she lives in a big stone eye in France. Her parents are French, and they're regular French people. This was a long time ago, so like I don't know, what 1700 or something, and maybe a little over than that, maybe like 1600. So the thing is, Beholder was born, but she was a Chinese girl, and her parents were white French people, and nobody was really sure what was going on, but they just kind of got used to her after a while. But the parents were very frustrated because being French, they were artists, and they thought their daughter had to be an artist. Like, oh, paint, do ballet, blah, blah, blah. So she didn't like art at all. She fucking hated it. So she never did a goddamn thing about it. Until one day, her mom, instead of asking her to do something, she asked her to evaluate something. And her evaluation was exactly perfect. And when the little girl, Marie, grew up, hit puberty at like 13 or 14, there was a big storm in the area and a lot of lightning struck this one hill. And anyway, it basically carved out of this hill a big rock eye. And it was on a big stone, So she went and lived up there. And that's where people send YouTube videos to find out if they're good or not. And any other medium of art as well. She's an equal opportunity critic. Okay, so next let's talk about what other gods are there? Oh, right. Then, of course, there's Alienator. Alienator. Alienator is, he's the god of mortal truth, which means he is the god of attachment to narratives. And obviously, not everybody's favorite person. A lot of people like him, but the gods don't like him, and most, smart people don't like him. So anyway, our story begins at the death of the god of time. As I said, Campago stopped. He happened to be in the villa. He witnessed the god of time's death. And then, lo and behold, who should pop in on the scene? Well, first, Baby Lady Bay, who was, projected warmth into him and made him feel better. But then who shows up? He's an asshole. And he's like, you killed the god of time to Campago. And Campago's like, no, I didn't. And the other guy's like, don't listen to Alienator. Just go away, Alienator. But Alienator gloats a little bit. So anyway, Campago gets down. Anyway, the point is he goes down to the bottom. He gets the bones from the God of Time. He takes them back to his house in New Hampshire. Now, keep in mind that Campago is the janitor, or the groundskeeper, I mean, not janitor, the groundskeeper for the Duchess of New Hampshire. Now, the Duchess of New Hampshire is young at this point, still very young, 17, 18 years old, and her father, the Duke, is still alive, and technically the Duke, but she's more or less taken over the whole dukedom from her father, and her father has been shuffled off to the side because the Duchess is much smarter than her father, and she's also much more ambitious. So she's basically taken over the dukedom already. Now, Entropitripicles, the god of semblance of confusion, of course, knows this because he's the god of semblance of confusion. But the Duchess doesn't know he knows this. So he goes and visits the Duchess and he tells her, I need your help for something. And she says, well, it's going to cost you because she's that way. And anyway, they go back and forth a little bit. And then the god of semblance of confusion, Entropitripicles, turns on his godly charm. And basically what that is it's a force of energy that causes the other individual to feel gratified by submission. So she submits, and he doesn't rape her. He has her agree to this process before he begins it. And more importantly, the thing is, he's concerned, and the reason he picked her is like, look, I can't use this power during copulation. If I do, then I'm going to cause you to be forever a slave, basically. But I think you might be able to resist it if anybody. It'll take a while to recover, but I think you will recover. Well, it turns out she was even more callous and not subject to that, and she ended up recovering right away. And she was very furious to the god, not because of the sexual intercourse, but rather because she had to experience that feeling of giving in, surrender. She didn't like that. And so anyway, the god leaves, and Campago is still there, and whatever. Campago grows old. He has a son. His name's Religeti, and he's growing. I mean, he doesn't grow old all at once. You know, he jumped way ahead, then jumped way back. He has a son named Rigoberto Religeti, and Rigoberto is somebody who likes to carve things out of wood, and he is also supposed to be in line for doing his father's job, as this is a feudal state. So it turns out what Entropitripicles had done was he had gotten a bone from the god of time, and when he was copulating with the Duchess, he pushed the bone of the god of time into her chest, and this has caused her to stop aging, or at least to slow way, way down. And in fact, what's happened in the world since the god of time has died is that what was formerly called Eventime, which is every place around the world proceeded into a technological future at the same pace. After the death of the god of time, everything split apart. So some places went really fast, some places went really slow. However, the thing that was of interest for the Duchess's purposes, and one of the reasons why Entropitripicles had to pick her and nobody else, is that it turned out that New Hampshire was the locus of the slowest bit of uneven time anywhere in the world. While other countries would move forward in time, they would still be stuck with their swords and their horses and stuff. But it was a good enough deal for the Duchess anyway. She knew she was going to live more or less forever, unless she got killed in an accident. And she knew that she would have a god sort of on her team, or she assumed she would. What did she have to do in exchange for getting the bone of life put into her, the bone of time? Well, she had to agree to build Entropitripicles a church, a cathedral that would become the great cathedral of Squalor. and I'll resume next time with more of the story.